Good evening, everyone. Welcome to StartUp Namibia Base Camp, as we're starting to become known here at Bokamoso Center. Thursday, and we know it's that time, campfire. We've got our fire set up, we've got our two beautiful guests, and they are already in their mask. I was supposed to start like this, as we always do, but apologies. We have our social distancing, we've sanitized our hands, and then I think you can take off your mask so that we can speak easily.
Thank you.
All right, Campfire is your #1 place, guys. If you want to find out about business development, small businesses, how to get that extra juice, to get to the next step. And we are proud to be with you every Thursday. We are proudly brought to you by GIZ and the Ministry of Industrialization and Trade. Okay, so let's do a round of introductions. I see you're saying her first, so let's start with you.
She's my director.
How did this context?
All honors.
Sure, please.
Yes, thank you very much to GIZ and to the Ministry of Industrialization and to StartUp Namibia for inviting me. My name is Seno Namwandi. I am the Director of Innovation and IP at the International University of Management, and I also serve in my capacity as a board member on the Business Intellectual Property Authority, where Ms. Tjombonde is the head of BRS, Business Registration Services. I am very passionate about entrepreneurship and startups. I don't see myself as one, although I grew up in a house of entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurship is something that I had the privilege of witnessing as a very young child, and right up until now, both my parents are still entrepreneurs. And so I know where my role in entrepreneurship is. I see myself as a facilitator of innovation in business. And that is why I'm here, because I don't believe that everybody should be an entrepreneur. Some of us are the ones who are supposed to be standing on the sidelines cheering you on. So cool. That is why I'm here.
What a wonderful introduction.
Thank you.
Please, Ms. Tjombonde.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this very beautiful occasion. An occasion that as BIPA, we really regard as an opportunity to really share information, because where we are now, pardon me, if I did not work at BIPA, I would not know about business registration. So that's my connection to the entrepreneurs, because they have very limited information that ordinarily would have empowered them to be better entrepreneurs. I am a lawyer by profession, and I actually at the moment serve as the executive responsible for business registration at the Business and Intellectual Property Authority.
Don't forget to say your name.
My name is Kapena Tjombonde. I was going to come that
okay, sorry.
in closing, but thank you for reminding me. And I also serve on the Council of the University of Namibia, where innovation is at the heart of the university. Now, where I am today, I'm a product of entrepreneurship because my parents were really renowned entrepreneurs and they had to bring up 9 children with startups.
Wow. I think before we really go into the formal part of the interview, I think we can just reflect a bit on the culture of entrepreneurship in Namibia. Both of you have said, in your families there were entrepreneurs, people that started business. My mom is also somebody that, she makes clothes, and with that she also helped us to go through school. How big a part is it, entrepreneurship in Namibian culture, according to your experience?
Should I take it?
Please.
Okay.
Start.
I think entrepreneurship is a survival basis for a lot of people in the country. I don't think majority of people who have entered into business in Namibia are doing so particularly because they're interested or because there is a quote-unquote need in the market. I think a lot of it has to do with I need to survive. I need to make a means to an end so that there's a meal on the table. And so because you see a lot of the type of business that pops up from our household is based on survival, you see that it's not sophisticated and it does not scale. And I think those are the concerns that I have right now with business in the country and even on the continent, is looking at how we look at business as a means of survival and not as a means of economy, development and sophistication. And so I think one of the things that I would like to see going forward is for us to switch our mindset that business is not just about survival, but it's also about providing a unique product or service to a lot of people, and the benefit of that is you surviving. Whereas for us, it's the other way around. For us, the primary priority is, can we survive? And then after that, now we start looking at, is the product wanted? Is it sophisticated? Is it priced well? Is it branded correctly, etc.? So I think what I've seen a lot is survival business.
And just for you to also add to that, I mean, how do you see business as a part of Namibian culture?
So I just wanted to pick up on the point that Seno made with respect to business. Entrepreneurship is not just about survival. We need to start looking at entrepreneurship as an equal partner of contributing to economic development. Entrepreneurship need to be nurtured to graduate to become the Popkavits of Namibia one day. Who knows who's going to be the next Popkavits? Maybe Campfire? You'll never know. Maybe it will become the next
TED Talk.
Equal competitor,
Exactly.
You understand, to TED Talk. So it shouldn't be seen as if it's just survival. And I think if you had asked that question 10 years ago, it's like entrepreneurship was for a selected few. It was not just for everybody, but today everybody is trying to start a business here and there, whether they're employed or not. You will hear a lot more people that are having a business on the side, or some people even resign to start a business. But whether they start a formal business or not, that's another question.
Yeah. So you've got a very, very interesting, Seno, a very interesting title. I've never seen a title like that. Can you tell your audience what is your title at the IUM and what does it entail?
All right, so I am the Director of Innovation at IUM, and being a Director of Innovation means different things depending on the type of sector that you work in. I am at a university, so that is academic. But I wanted to, when I saw the question, I thought I would address it from 2 perspectives. The first being general, that when you are the Director of Innovation or you are the head of innovation at a company in any sector, there are certain critical characteristics that you have to have. And in my opinion, those characteristics are inquisitiveness. You have to be very inquisitive. You have to keep asking why. You have to try and look at the world through a curious lens. And then what makes my job interesting and what has drawn me to innovation is the ability to be multidisciplinary. So Ms. Tjombonde said she's a lawyer by profession. I'm actually a scientist by profession, and I went into intellectual property. So my CV looks multidisciplinary. So that is the crux of being part of innovation and working in innovation formally, is understanding the ability to relate to different fields at a certain depth. I know sufficient about science, I know sufficient about intellectual property and innovation, and even now business, and now also because I work in a university in academics. So those are the characteristics I think are fundamental to anybody who's working in innovation as a profession. In my role at the university, my role is predominantly process innovation, looking at the university from a process perspective. Are we doing things in an improved manner to offer our service of education in a better way to our students? And then I also strategically link to research, making sure that the research that happens at the university meets a certain threshold of innovation. So a lot of my job sometimes ends up in IT things, looking at the IT processes of the university, making sure that they meet a certain level of innovation or a threshold of innovation, and that they work towards improving the service delivery. Because innovation, I keep saying the basic definition of innovation is improving what exists already. So we already have computer systems, and my job is to make sure that I improve on the computer systems, or improve on all the systems at IUM, to make sure that they are innovative, to make the service delivery easy and sufficient, effective, and productive.
Excellent. I think we're going to tap into that innovation thing, that how do you take what is already there and just improve it to be more efficient and so on. But let's look at, let's go back to the sector. We've got a lot of people that are in business. You've got a guy that's a mechanic. People are selling fake cook and so on. But they're just doing it from home, and they get the money, and then, they put it into the NAMPOS. Can you take us into the formal aspect? Why do you think it's important for people to register their businesses?
Let me take a typical example of somebody that is really known in a certain community to be making very delicious fat cakes. And there is an event where people want a supplier that can, supply them with fat cakes, certain quantity. What will they do? They will put out a tender. They would require specific documentation for that person to pass the formal requirements with respect to a tender. So as much as this entrepreneur that is making these very delicious fat cakes, known in the community, could have been the best person to get the tender, guess what? She's not registered. So she will not get that opportunity to tender, to get that opportunity to grow her business with whatever the resources that comes with a tender. So number one, that's one of the most important things. If you have a registered business, you are able to participate in the public tender process. But if you are not registered, you will not be able to participate in that process. But the participation in the tender process is not what is the biggest benefit, but the access to the financial resources that comes along with that tender will assist you to grow your business. And like I said again, you will never know if you formalize your business, you are able to participate in the tender processes, you have access to financial resources, you grow your business and you become an employer. You look after another family. So there are many benefits in registering a business. And if investors, for example, come to Namibia, they are looking for certain businesses or in certain industries, they would look for formal businesses. You might be doing what you do best, but if you are not a formal business, your credibility is almost at stake. But if you are registered, you can produce your papers. I'm registered. I have this brand. I've established a brand. I'm known. you become attractive to the customers, you become attractive to the investors. When you go to the bank, you want to access a facility, to just invest into the business and grow the business. They would require your formal documentation. If you are not registered, you forgo all these benefits that are there.
Absolutely. So to all the people out there that are having ideas, get it registered, go through the formal process. But I want to come back to Seno. And I'm saying, look, everybody has an idea, everybody starts a business. What do you think about all ideas just opening businesses? Would it not overwhelm the systems of BIPA and the government? Or are there some ideas that you can first try out and see how they work before you do the formal registration? Can you give us your 2 cents on that?
Yes, that's a great question. I think one of the things that I pride myself on is reading. I read a lot. And one of my favorite statements that I got from a book that I read is, the problem is not idea generation, it is idea selection. So we are not a country that is minimal on ideas. Every young person has, 2 to 15 ideas. The question is, are these ideas bankable? Are they commercial? Are they scalable? And are they innovative and unique enough to form a credible business? That is the problem. So no, every idea does not need to be registered. I would even go as far as to say that every idea should not even touch IP. There's not every idea that needs to be linked.
Just for our viewers, can you explain the difference between IP and business registration?
So intellectual property is the legal right that has been granted by the government to an idea generator, holder, creator to monopolize their idea, meaning the government gives you the right to be the exclusive owner and user of that, the way you've expressed that idea. Business registration is registering a business that now becomes a full-fledged entity on its own. So to make it simple, a business owner is the person who registers intellectual property. So you have, a company like Nam Dairies. They are a business entity in their own right, and they have several forms of intellectual property, one of them being trademarks, and they have several trademarks. They have Omahere, and then they have Oshikandela. So all of those are trademarks that belong to a business entity. So I would go as far as to say that not every idea needs to be registered as a business, and not every idea needs to be registered as an intellectual property. You have to go through idea selection to look at the sophistication of your idea and also the viability of your idea. I don't want to eat into the rest of the questions that you've asked me, but just to touch on it already, it's very important to decide or distinguish between an idea that is adaptive in innovation, or is it an idea that's inventive? So if it's inventive, go through the processes of testing it out, experimenting, going through various cycles of the lean startup psychology, and then look at whether it's a viable business. If it is, then register it. If it's not, it's not. And I think one of my main ideas when it comes to business is that if you are afraid that someone is going to steal your idea, I'm sorry to say your idea is not good enough, because good ideas are not easily stolen.
Wow, keep that in mind. Good ideas are not easily stolen. But that also gives us an opportunity to talk about Startup Namibia, because as you know, we are a new project. We've only started in April. But we also will have an aspect of, helping our clients get to the minimal viable product. So Startup Namibia will have an incubation center here at Bokomaso, where we'll have machines where you can print fabrics, where you can do packaging. So we will be able to work together with startups and entrepreneurs and help them to just see how the product will look, and then they can use that to go to investors and go to the banks and just move to the next step. So we look forward in the following months to make an announcement on our center, and we'll invite both of you to come and have a good evening with us as we launch the incubation center, which will be called Base Camp. So that's why we're already starting to promote it. But back to you. Can you tell us a little bit about BIPA? I know it's a new institution. Can you tell us a little bit about BIPA, what it does, where are your offices, and also tell us about the trend. Have you seen, since you have opened the offices, a big number of registrations, or is it not so much, especially looking at women and those in regional registrations?
Right. So the Business and Intellectual Property Authority was established by an Act of Parliament. It opened its doors in 2017 January. It doesn't mean that business registration in itself only started in 2017 in this country. It started, the registration was happening at the Ministry of now MIT. It used to be mixed with now MIT. That function then was now taken out of the ministry and was given to BIPA, and that's what we are administering at the moment. So what is BIPA doing? BIPA is registering businesses and intellectual property rights. It's rightly explained by Ms. Namwandi what the business rights are and what the intellectual property rights are. In addition to that, BIPA, as one of the main objects in the Act, ought to contribute to the economic development of this country by creating employment. And how do we create employment is to make sure that the businesses that are registered are sustainable. So it's not just about registering businesses, it also has to do with the administration of businesses and regulation of businesses. When you register a business, there's a lot to that. Like with the IP that Ms. Namwandi explained, you register your business. I don't know whether these beautiful logos that I see here are actually protected by BIPA.
Not yet.
Because if I leave this place today, I might as well take one of the ideas with me. And you cannot challenge me, because then I register it first with BIPA. You can cry and go on about it was me. You can even show the papers how you designed. I can just take it and register and use it myself. So just to lament the importance of intellectual property, as explained by Ms. Namwandi, is it gives you that right over that trademark, for example, in relation to business registration. So that's what BIPA is doing in a nutshell, but there's a lot more. And maybe just to add, one of the objects is to share information. So that's why when I started in my introduction, I spoke about every opportunity where we speak as BIPA. We regard it as a very, very important occasion, because, like I said, before I started working at BIPA, I did not know what BIPA was about. So if everybody can have that information, just to understand what is business registration, what is intellectual property, how do I go about to register a business, how do I go about to register the IP that I have. It's really a golden opportunity for us to be speaking to these topics at any given time. Now, looking at the statistics, I looked at statistics from 2016 to 2019, full year. Interestingly, that the numbers of registration or incorporation of businesses has been reducing almost by 1,000 every year. Now, we all know that of recent years, it's not easy to sustain a business. And even now during these times, even more difficult. We're hearing about retrenchments every day. But the trend has been coming on. We also know that there has been an economic downturn that has prevailed for a long time. And Namibia was also adversely affected by the drought. A lot of families suffered at the hands of the drought that prevailed. So there's an increase of businesses that are being deregistered, and there's a decrease of businesses that are being registered. So that's where we are as we speak. There are a lot of factors to that, and I can, go on and on with regards to that. But it's actually an opportune time for BIPA to really step up, given the stats that we have, and given the objects and the purpose of BIPA. What is there for us to do? So we have to step up and see how we can contribute towards keeping the businesses alive.
And specifically looking at women businesses, women-owned businesses, and businesses in the regions, what are your statistics from that?
The statistics that we have illustrates that 85% of the businesses are owned by men and 15% by women. In the regions, we have Commerce having most of the businesses, followed by Irongo region, Oshana. And you can actually almost tell the story conspicuously, because if you have the most of the activities, economic activities, they are actually almost concentrated in those through the three areas. So the population also, you can speak to that, and that actually is what is coming out from our statistics as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just to our viewers, you are at your famous Thursday campfire. We're having a great time with Ms. Namwandi and Ms. Tjombonde. We're talking about IP, innovation, and business registration. So far, it's been really, really interesting. We are learning so much. Ms. Namwandi, if we can, people like to have a simplified explanation of things. Innovation, everybody's talking about it. Explain it like you would explain it to an 8-year-old that's just starting to sell Ace from home or Fed Cook at home. Okay. How would you explain innovation?
All right. I like ice cream, so I'm going to use ice cream as an analogy. If I had an 8-year-old in front of me, my nephew is 10, so if I had to explain to him what innovation is, I would buy ice cream from Farmhouse, the label Farmhouse. I would buy ice cream from Magnum. I would buy ice cream from Woolworths, and then I would buy a normal popsicle, and then I would buy your ice that's in a plastic bag that's been made from someone's home. And I would put all of those options in front of him. And I would explain to him that you have all these things, and now let's taste them. So we would taste the Magnum ice cream, the ice cream from Farmhouse, from Woolworths, and then the normal ice that's in a plastic bag. I would ask him to tell me which one is his favorite, and I would ask him why it's his favorite. And then I would ask him to look at all the different brands and to explain the textures of the different ice cream. The ice that's been made from water, sugar, and flavoring obviously does not taste the same as Woolworths ice cream. And so if he ranks all the ice cream, and I would rank all my ice creams, I would explain to him that innovation has happened from the ice in the plastic bag to the Woolworths bucket. Because all of it is ice cream. All of it is ice cream. It's just about how it tastes that is different. One is in its basic form, one is in its most elaborate form. And then I'll also speak to the fact that it's all different packaged. The ice from the auntie at the back is just in a normal transparent plastic bag. The ice cream that is in Woolworths is in a plastic bucket that is branded with different colors, even now branded with the calorie information so that we know that per scoop you have XY calories.
That doesn't matter, we still
yes, obviously
just get at it.
Obviously nobody cares about that, and obviously my 10-year-old nephew wouldn't really care about calories, but the point would be that the innovation has happened from the transparent plastic bag where it was water and sugar and coloring to an elaborate creamy milkshake tasting ice cream. So in simplest form, innovation is the improvement of one product or service to another version that is more elaborate and more sophisticated and more appealing. Because we have to remember that we are visual creatures, and right now in the current trends in intellectual property, specifically in trademarks, is that there has been a marked increase in trademark applications worldwide, which is telling us that consumers are becoming more brand conscious. So now we know that, the lady who's in Ludwigsdorf is not going to really be very interested in buying ice cream that's in a transparent plastic bag, correct? We want it branded in a certain way. And that is how Woolworths has roped us in with their brand. They speak a brand of quality, they speak a brand of elitism, and it speaks to people's need to want to differentiate themselves as elite or as of a certain bracket that utilizes products that's quality. So innovation in its simplest form is the improvement from a basic product to a more sophisticated one.
If we're talking about innovation, we often confuse it with just taking an idea. For example, that's in Bangkok. Someone is having a specific idea in Bangkok. It's not in Namibia. I see it and I'm like, I'll do it in Windhoek. Strictly speaking, that's not innovation, right? There should be another word for it.
That is imitation.
Is it a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. In fact, most economies right now have grown to the levels of dynamism that they have because of imitation. So innovation can be imitative and it can be adaptive. You can take a technology that is present in Singapore and adapt it to be used in Tsumkwe with the type of infrastructure or lack thereof that is in Tsumkwe, and try and equalize them so that whatever is working in Singapore also works in Tsumkwe. So that is adaptative. You can imitate, meaning you can actually copy the idea word for word. And we have economies that are based on that. Singapore, South Korea, North Korea, China, a lot of the Asian countries really pressed into imitative and adaptive innovation, and there is nothing wrong with that. The important thing with imitative and adaptive innovation is being able to really implement it in your context for a commercial benefit. Meaning, if you were to copy, complete the idea of a cell phone, a smartphone, an American smartphone to a Namibian smartphone, I, as the consumer, should want to buy the Namibian one. That is how you know you've successfully innovated, because something that people tend to forget, the part of the definition that people forget with innovation is commercial viability. So in academia, the theoretical innovation definition has commercial viability attached to it. It is a new improvement on an existing product or services that is commercially viable. If you simply improve a product and nobody buys it, that's not really innovation. So from a commercial perspective, there has to be an incentive for me as a consumer to say that I look at an Apple product and I look at a Namibian version of that and I want to buy the Namibian one above the American one. That's how you know you've really successfully imitated and adapted an innovation into your context.
Before I go to Ms. Tjombonde, just on the imitation thing, we've got a very good example. There was a Twitter feud a few months ago about the cake in the glass, the cake in the jar. So one lady did it and another one did it, and then there's like, that was my idea and so on. But both of them, it's not registered, it's just something you do and put on Instagram and people start ordering. So what do you think about that kind of thing where that idea is obviously being around, it's been done in other countries. What are your 2 cents on a situation like that where something is just an idea that 2 people are doing and then both of them are making money from it and it's not registered?
So I just want to follow up, before I answer the question, I'll follow up and say that innovation has a very magnetic force. It's very attractive. So because we're in a trend of innovation globally, I love what I see that Namibians are participating more and more in either attempting to innovate or actually imitating innovation. And I think what tends to happen in any society is one person will create something and it's easier to walk the path that has been trodden on. If somebody has made the path for you, it's easy for you to walk instead of you coming up with a completely new idea. In that case, cake in a jar is not something that is unique, it is not new, and no offense, there's not much there's not an attraction to the product itself. What comes with the product to bring it as an attraction is the brand reputation that you attach to it. And that is where I would say you need to be very specific about what you register. If I were a business person who went into imitative innovation as a business product or service, I would make a very, very big effort in developing a brand reputation to attach to my product. And that is what I would protect. I would protect my logo, I would protect my slogan, I would make sure that my product is dressed in a way that any given time when people see the colors, they associate it with me. The same way every time we see blue, we associate it with Facebook, we associate it with MTC. So that is a brand, we've been indoctrinated with their brand. So I would invest in indoctrinating my consumer and customer with my brand colors, with my brand qualities. I would want them to turn around and say, like Woolworths, everybody associates the word quality with Woolworths. So if they see my cake in a jar, what's the word that they associate with that? And know that that word is associated to the product and it's associated to me. So that's the important thing with trademark applications and investing in a brand reputation. It's very, very important to distinguish the varying amounts of products in the market that are similar, because you can't say that now nobody else is allowed to make a cake in a jar. It's not that unique. So that's why brands are important. They differentiate the different products within the same sector.
Excellent. You've been doing this now for a little bit at BIPA. You might have picked up what some of the clients are saying when they get to you. Tell us the two biggest fears people have about registering businesses.
I'll tell you 4.
Perfect.
Great.
Even better. So I think the very first thing is the fear for compliance to regulations and the laws. It's like when people hear about registration, is that there's a law now, I have to do this and that. Do I know this thing? Do I understand? Can I interpret the provisions in the act? No, I'd rather stay away from that. That's number one. The second one is, with every administration, there's a fee or a levy associated. Now, guess what? The servers at BIPA, I want to believe that it's very cheap to register a business. Like to register a closed corporation, you pay $75 for the name, and then you pay $130, and then you have your certificate. But because people have fear for regulation and legislation, they tend to want to use Ms. Namwandi, who's been assisting people to register businesses. So I'll go to Ms. Namwandi to register my business, and Ms. Namwandi will not do that for free. Ms. Namwandi will ask you, it's unregulated. She can ask you anything between 3,000 and 17,000, depending on the type of entity you want to register. Do I have that money? As a startup, I don't have. So I'll do my own business on the street as I used to do it. So it becomes like, and then when you hear about this business registration, it's like a big mountain. Yeah. Can I do it? Because where we are now is information is only known to selected few people. Mm-hmm. And the trend has been that if you want to register a business, get a consultant. So that's why, and I go back to say that we are really out there to want to share more information so that everybody understands what it means to register a business, and also to know it's not so expensive at the end of the day.
That was one.
Is it one?
Yeah.
I spoke about compliance. I spoke about the cost of registration. So that's 2. And I spoke about the levies that's associated with that. And then I spoke about when they hear registration, it's like they almost have little comprehension of what it entails, and I just don't know about this, I cannot do it.
And then if you have now gone over the fear, what is the process? Just outline the process briefly.
All right. So before I go to the business registration process, firstly, when you decide to want to register a business, do you know what type of business activity you want to undertake? Do you know what type of business entity you want to register? Do you know whether you want to go solo or you want to go with a partner or partners? And what would their contribution be to that particular business that you want to set up? Because there are several businesses that you can register with BIPA. And I want to speak to that quickly because I think it's important to just unpack the types of businesses that we register at BIPA. The first one is you can register a defensive name. Now, a defensive name, in the true sense of the word, is I want to protect this name for 2 years while I'm deciding whether I want to register a company or I want to register a closed corporation. But because the law does not provide for a sole proprietorship, the defensive name, after it has been registered, the business or the owner of the name trades under that name. It's a cheap type of, I don't want to call it business type, but I think practice has it that's what the entrepreneurs are using to start trading. And when they decide to, now I've graduated, I want to go into a bigger business type, they can graduate to register the defensive name to become now a closed corporation. Closed corporation is a business that is registered by either one person or 10 maximum. And if you are a member, a shareholder of the business, but you also manage the affairs of the business. Alternatively, you can choose to register a company, a private company, where 1 up to 50 people can become shareholders of that company, and they have to appoint directors. The shareholder can be a director, or the shareholders can appoint independent people that are not shareholders to be the directors to manage the affairs of the business. Alternatively, you can register a public company, like Standard Bank, let's say, who went public recently, where they would make public offerings where everybody, all of us can be shareholders to that business. We can own whether 1 up to how many shares they would have authorized at the time. So the public company raised their finances through the public. By buying shares, you are basically contributing financially to that business, and it can be from 7 up to countless shareholders in that company, but they have to appoint 2 directors or more also to the private company. And then there's what we call a Section 21, which is known as a non-profit association. It's also a public company, but it's a company that is established for purposes of not making a profit. So when you register Section 21, you should know that I'm going to establish a Section 21 because I'm establishing a charitable foundation to look after a certain sector of the community. So those are the types of businesses that you can register. After you've decided who's your partner, what type of business activity, what type of business you want to register, now you have to find a unique name. Because you don't want to use a name that is used by another business. You would firstly create confusion amongst the users or the consumers, and secondly, you will just not have that uniqueness of your business that you can pride yourself with. And that's the name that you can later on, Ms. Namwandi spoke about the trademark. You can trademark your name. Registering your business is not the ultimate. You must go ahead and register a trademark over your business name, over the logo of your business or the business name, so that it's almost double protection, and nobody will meddle with your business name if you do that protection. After your name is approved, you now have to submit the correct forms depending on the type of business that you want to register, whether a closed corporation, a private company, or a public company. Maybe I should speak to how much it is to register a business. The name reservation, I said, it's $75, and you have 2 months to decide whether you want to still continue to register the business or not, and it will expire. The name will expire after 60 days if you didn't come back to be back to register a business.
Is the same true for the defensive name after the 2 years? If you didn't come back to
renew.
Yeah, to renew.
Then
so you
expires.
can renew a defensive name.
Yeah, only for 2 years. You keep it for 2 years, you renew it for another 2 years, and subsequently you ought to have decided which way you want to go.
Hopefully after 4 years you know that you want to do the business or not.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what it is. And after your name has been approved, you have to submit now the forms, the relevant forms with the annexures that comes with it, your IDs of the members, proof of payment, and make sure that you always have the correct contact details and emails, because we are moving into a space where we don't want to see papers anymore. We want to make contact with our customers through either SMSs or WhatsApp or through emails in future. So it's important that the contact details are always correct on the application form. And we can always advise as to which business type do you want, what is fit for the type of business activity you want to undertake, for the number of partners that you have. We can always provide that advice, because it's not so clear for everybody as it is for other people. Yeah.
Ms. Namwandi, we're living in a digital space. She was talking about social media. How do you think social media is affecting innovation? And according to your analysis of the Namibian landscape, do you find that our young entrepreneurs are really innovative? Two questions in one. And,
wow.
It's a curveball.
That is a curveball.
Yeah.
I think social media has provided.
And excuse me to interrupt, but
yes.
Not only social media, but if you're looking at YouTube,
yeah.
all the information that is out there, does it really help those who want to innovate and so on?
It does. I think social media has provided democracy to ideas and provided democracy to business. The internet has provided a platform for information sharing that now decentralizes information, which I think is very important in idea generation and idea selection. I think that nowadays you don't have to think that hard. If you have somewhat of an idea of what you're interested in, the information is actually overwhelming. It's getting to that place where it's now overwhelming. There's just so much out there to pick upon and to learn. So I think social media and the internet as a platform has really accelerated innovation and accelerated business registration or the development of business, which I think is a really good thing. You asked me a double-barrel question. The second part, do I think that Namibian entrepreneurs are innovative? Yes and no. As I said prior, I think innovation has a magnetic force. So I'm seeing that Namibian entrepreneurs are very attracted to innovation and innovative trends. What I'm not seeing is uniqueness, and I'm not seeing ideas that could easily be scaled into viable businesses that now impact the society in a very dramatic way. And I don't think that is the fault of the Namibian entrepreneurs. So my job and my passion is to create a conducive environment for business to thrive in and for innovation to thrive in. And I will be the first to tell you that the problem is not the entrepreneurs, the problem is the environment. One is we lack infrastructure. Now, when people hear infrastructure, they immediately think of roads and electricity. But infrastructure is actually categorized into two things. You have soft infrastructure and you have hard infrastructure. Now, let me speak about the soft infrastructure. Soft infrastructure is education, for example. Now, where we are really lacking in Namibia and on the continent, sorry, I'm very continental, I hope you don't mind.
No, don't.
Very African focused. Our problem in Africa and in Namibia is we lack soft infrastructure in form of education. Our leaders, our political leaders and the government have this thought that we build schools, and they equate schools to education. Schools and education is not the same thing. Let me explain why. We have universities that have curriculums in engineering and in software engineering. I work at a university where we have an entire faculty of information communication and technology. Now, we ignorantly assume that because we see IUM, we see NAST, we see UNAM, Namibia has education. That is not the truth. Schools do not equate education. Why do I say that? In Asian countries, the markets became sophisticated because of the type of education they were giving their citizens. For example, you found that intellectual property was taught from grade 1. You have a South Korean 10-year-old who knows more about intellectual property than a 40-year-old lawyer in Namibia. That is a problem. So
that's huge.
That is a huge problem. And to take it a step further, bringing it into innovation and business registration. If you are an engineer, you're a mechanical engineer, ideally, I would be satisfied to know that you are educated if you graduate knowing how to read a patent and knowing how to extract information from that patent in order to innovate your own product. And I would be satisfied to know that you are educated if you, as an engineer, would then be able to know how to develop a business out of that product. So we equate the presence of schools and universities to education, and that is not the case. So we are really lacking in soft infrastructure. We don't educate our citizens in a manner that enables them to innovate and to turn those innovations into viable businesses. I'm obviously biased towards intellectual property because I'm an intellectual property professional, but let me tell you why I stress this. Patents contain novel information. So in order for you to have a patent, you have to satisfy three criteria: novelty, industrial applicability, and uniqueness. Now, if somebody has applied for a patent then becomes a public document. So people don't know this, but you can actually go on internet right now and you can read all of Google's patents. It's public information. So if you call yourself a mechanical engineer and you are an innovator and you're interested in business, you should know how to read a patent, because a patent will give you all the latest trends in artificial technology, all the latest trends in artificial intelligence. And by that, you'll be able to pick the gaps that, oh, Google's engineers didn't think of this, I thought of this, and that gives you a window to innovate in. That is why China is what it is today. China became expert at tearing to shreds American patents, trying to find the gaps so that they could innovate within those gaps. So we are lacking in the soft infrastructure from that perspective. I spoke about a second type of infrastructure, which is hard infrastructure, which is roads, electricity, etc. And those are also critical because without electricity, I cannot access the internet. So even if I was a well-meaning engineer from Ohangwena and I want to read a patent, I know how to read a patent, if my phone only has 2G, that is a problem. So I think in essence, when I say that I don't see innovation playing a big role in Namibian business, it's not to blame the innovators, it is not to blame the Namibian entrepreneurs, I blame the infrastructure that we have and the lack thereof actually, because it's stifling the ability for people to really develop innovation that can become commercially viable, that then can become scalable to the continent, because that is actually the problem. The reason why we are seeing Namibian business the way it is right now is the Namibian businesses are not scalable. And I stress scalability because Namibia's population is 2.15 million, and out of the 2.15 million, we do not have a great portion of that population that has domestic income, disposable income. A lot of us, our income is literally month to month. So when I'm talking about a small population, I would even go as far as to say that we probably only have between 10 and 15% of our population that has disposable income to spend on business products. So Namibia needs businesses that are scalable, that go out of the border, because we need to access SADC, we need to access the continent. And we're on a big continent. I mean, our population is in the billions now. So that is, imagine if you were a Windhoek business owner that had a business that scaled into Gabon, Nigeria, South Africa, Botswana, and Angola, you're set. That is set. Like, that is an incredible market, a customer base of almost 1 million people. But when you're a business owner in Namibia and your business is just in Katutura, you only have 2,000 people. So that, it then frustrates the business growth, it frustrates the business revenue, and as Ms. Tjombonde just said, it then now almost makes it an incentive for you to register the business, because you just don't see the point in it. So those are the problems that we have. We need to be able to address the infrastructure around entrepreneurship, and that's why I work in what I work in.
Yeah, and as you emphasized, you want to add something on that?
I want to contribute
please go ahead.
to that point. Just really adding up to what Ms. Namwandi is saying, if you look at the types of businesses that are registered in Namibia, you know, we really want to tell the public that, you know, these are the industries within which the people have registered their business. 52% of the businesses that are registered, we cannot tell in which industry they are acting, because they register businesses with numerous business activities, hoping
Guilty.
hoping that, you know, they can win here, they can win there, they can win there. But you see, and that actually talks to the innovative capability of our business owners. And in addition, if you look at how much Namibia exports versus how much we import, the scale is very skewed. That is why we still have our truck drivers driving across the border during these difficult times. If we were an economy that was, you know, exporting more, we're supposed to be, you know, growing everything at home. And really, but now where we are is like, if somebody is registering a business, it's like, I've seen Ms. Namwandi is selling handbags, I'm also going to start selling handbags.
The salons.
So maybe she's selling yellow handbags, I want to sell pink handbags. So let me stop there.
Yeah, no, and yeah, just to emphasize, you know, it's teamwork. We can't expect the entrepreneur just to make magic. I mean, it takes really many stakeholders to set up the environment for startups.
Yeah,
I mean, if I can say, the other part of soft infrastructure that I'm really interested to see developed once and for all, please, is whoever is listening, the powers that be. The finance system is also a soft infrastructure. Our ability to acquire customers has to be in line with where we are at right now in the digital age. It has to be possible for a Namibian entrepreneur to buy shea butter from Ghana and pay for that via PayPal. The fact that we have not advanced to a level where we have changed the market to enable online transactions is going to really stifle business. We have already moved another industrial revolution. The unfortunate thing is that the continent keeps lagging 1 or 2 industrial revolutions every single time. We're in the 4th industrial revolution. Artificial intelligence is the way of the world right now, but yet me in Namibia right now, I still cannot pay for something via PayPal. So changing the market dynamics, the finance system to be conducive for businesses to operate on a technology platform is so important. And that's something I really want to see Namibia and the continent progress towards, where we're enabling online transactions for African and Namibian entrepreneurs to trade within each other.
I have to apologize, of course, to our viewers, because the discussion is so exciting that we never took any questions from anyone. But we got one question from Captain Sarah. She's one of our Facebook viewers. She's asking Ms. Tjombonde, which documents do you need to register a company, and how long does it take? You can answer, Captain Sarah.
Captain Sarah.
Yeah.
So Captain Sarah, Like I explained, it depends what type of business you want to register. If you want to register a closed corporation, first of all, you have to reserve a name that is valid for 60 days. And secondly, after your name has been approved, you submit what we call a CC1 form. It's a prescribed form that you have to complete. And then you attach your ID and a copy of the witness. The form has to be witnessed by some person. A copy of and then a consent letter from the accounting officer, because the business has to be monitored that it's financially viable. And
the famous boss.
You also know about Boss Nanda.
Yeah.
Okay. Boss Nanda is one of the accounting officers that is really looking after a lot of our businesses, according to the statistics that we hold. So that consent letter you need to have, because the accounting officer is probably one of the most important stakeholders you need to have in your business. But it is viewed as if this consent letter. What is this consent letter? We are paying money for consent letter, but that consent letter actually is a letter that comes from the accounting officer that is consenting to look after the financial well-being of your business. And that is how we can have sustainable businesses. So the other thing that you need to attach is a proof of payment. These days we don't take cash, we are cashless. We are probably moving into the electronic e-commerce gradually, so we don't take cash. You have to make an online transaction where you pay at the bank and you just append the proof of payment, which is $130 for the closed corporation, and you submit your form. And these days we are taking about 3 to 5 days to register a business. So now, if you want to register a company, unfortunately, you have to see a lawyer, so that the lawyer then discusses the memorandum and articles of association with you. And after you have agreed with your partners as to the articles and memorandum, the documents have to be notarized by the lawyer, and it's another expense that you have to undertake, and almost append the same documents that I spoke about to the CC and submit to BIPA. It will also take about the same time.
Okay,
yes.
So, and that is for Captain Sarah. I hope you got the reply. Colleagues, time flies, when you're having fun. Really, the hour has passed. I just want to steal a little bit production minutes from our viewers to give you, some parting thoughts. Maybe we can start with Ms. Namwandi.
All right. I was very excited to give my 3 main ideas of what to avoid when starting a business or thinking about a business. So the first idea I'll leave with the audience is, if you are afraid that your business idea is going to be stolen, go back and refine your idea, because a good idea is not easily stolen. A second idea that my main idea with business registration is, do not be so eager to be the only owner. I think the problem I'm seeing a lot with young people in Namibia and young people on the continent, they want fast success and fast-track success. Don't be afraid to sell your idea to a big company. Don't be afraid to partner with that company. The saying is 20% of $1 billion is better than 100% of $10. So Mark Zuckerberg right now is not 100% shareholder in Facebook, but I don't think he minds, because 24% of $1 billion is a lot. So I think when you have a business idea, instead of being so selfish and hogging it to yourself, if you want, approach the big companies, approach Sanlam, approach Old Mutual, approach the banks, and tell them, I'll give you 50% of my idea if you pay me. So don't be so selfish over your ideas. And the last parting thought I will leave with the audience is, look at the opportunities that are around you. As Mrs. Tjombonde just said, that the type of sophistication we're seeing in business registration is not great. So look outside, read about the opportunities. Right now, the African Development Bank has made an incredible initiative in agriculture business. Go into that, follow the money, follow where all these calls of proposals are coming from. So that will enable you to actually start businesses that have resources already waiting for you. Don't just dream up an idea. Dream up ideas where the opportunities are, and for you to find the opportunities, you need to read. So read, 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 read. Those are my final thoughts.
Would you like to add some takeaways?
Yes, my takeaways is that other economies have been developed through small businesses because then they grow, they graduate to become really the giants of this world. So if you think you want to remain a small business, here's it that please have a vision as to where you want to navigate towards, and don't stay within that confines of your comfort. They say if you remain in your comfort, you will not know what you are losing outside that comfort that you have. So it's important to destabilize yourself and almost get into an uncomfort space and register your business. If you register your business, the opportunities that are waiting for you are numerous. You can even grow as big as starting to trade internationally. We're talking about local markets, we're talking about international markets. If you remain a business that is not registered, you will lose out on opportunities to trade, let alone locally, but also internationally. Then you will just remain that small business. So it's important to dream big and to make yourself a bit uncomfortable in your venture, to want to have that urge to want to grow and to become a bigger business, and not just to make ends meet, the traditional way of doing business. And they say if you take bigger risks, at some point the returns will also be bigger. So take a risk, step out of your comfort zone and see what you can do. But first of all, educate yourself. Don't let another third party manage your business for you entirely. Educate yourself. Know the territory that you want to step into. And I think if you do that, we can grow Namibia and take Namibia to greater heights.
On that note, I would love to just take a round of thank yous. Thank you, Ms. Namwandi. We really appreciate you being here. Ms. Tjombonde, the same. As you know, we were in the regions this week, or these 2 weeks we were in the regions, handing over our PPE and hygiene kits for COVID-19. We are so grateful to the governors of Oshana region, Kunene region, Kavango East, Kavango West, and the governor of Erongo region. They have really spearheaded the handing over and really made us feel very welcome. To all the town councils and all the colleagues that were there working with us, we really extend our gratitude, and we look forward to working. Incidentally, Opua asked that people come up and just spend time with the small businesses because they want to know, how do you register and so on. We had a grant and then they couldn't apply because of the issues that you mentioned with not having the proper documents, because StartUp Namibia also requires proper documents so that you can access our funding. So we look forward maybe one day going up to Kunene with your team and providing that training. And thank you to Sense Global Studios for the great live stream, and to the producer and everyone backstage. And see you next week, Campfire. Now we have to sit awkwardly, quietly and watch the screen until it dies, guys.
know the world is a crazy place right now, but don't panic. Take a breath. Slow down. Or better yet, stop completely. We'll still be here when everything settles down. In this time of uncertainty, look to nature. She has all the answers, you know. We're not only giving ourselves time to reset, we're giving nature time to restore, revive, restart. We're saving ourselves and we're saving the world. Stay home now so that we can welcome you to Namibia again soon. Yes, the world's a crazy place right now, but don't despair. Find the joy, cherish hope, breathe. Take a moment, take a few, and someday soon you'll once again be able to stare in wonder at this magnificent view. The world's a crazy place right now, but don't worry, we'll still be here. We'll see you again soon.